The night my father pointed toward the front gate and told me to leave with nothing but the clothes on my back, I realized that the people who are supposed to protect your heart can sometimes be the ones who shatter it the most. As I stood in the pouring rain holding a single worn backpack, watching the mansion I had called home disappear behind iron gates, I felt something inside me break forever. I had no money, no car, no place to sleep, and no family willing to stop him. What no one standing in that driveway knew was that by sunrise, everything they believed about me would be turned upside down forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness is never weakness, that second chances can change lives, and that good people deserve happy endings, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs help today, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us humanity still exists. For as long as I could remember, I had lived under the shadow of my father's impossible expectations. Richard Lawson was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city, respected by everyone who only saw the expensive suits, the charity dinners, and the perfect smile he wore in public. At home, however, love was measured by success. Every achievement was compared to someone else's. Every mistake became proof that I wasn't good enough, and every dream I had that didn't fit his vision was treated like a personal betrayal. When my mother passed away during my first year of college, the little warmth that had existed inside our home disappeared with her. My father buried himself deeper in business, while I buried myself in work, trying desperately to earn his approval. I graduated with honors, built several successful technology projects, and quietly invested every dollar I earned instead of spending it. Still, whenever he looked at me, disappointment filled his eyes as though I had somehow failed simply by being myself. Everything exploded during a family dinner. My father announced that I would become vice president of his company, whether I wanted the position or not. When I calmly explained that I wanted to continue building my own investment firm instead of living under his name forever, silence swallowed the room. His face turned crimson with anger. To him, rejecting his offer meant rejecting the family itself. Within minutes, years of resentment poured out. He accused me of being selfish, ungrateful, and arrogant. Then, in front of relatives who watched without saying a word, he ordered security to escort me out and declared that I would never receive another dollar from him. Walking through that night was the loneliest journey of my life. I wasn't crying because I had lost wealth. I cried because I had lost the last hope that my father might someday simply tell me he was proud of me. I spent the night on a wooden bench overlooking the river, listening to traffic echo through the darkness while wondering how love could disappear so quickly. But appearances can be deceiving. Long before that painful night, I had learned a lesson from my mother. She always told me that true freedom comes from building something no one can take away. Following her advice, I had quietly invested in startups, commercial real estate, and renewable energy companies while everyone assumed I was simply another privileged son living off family money. For nearly 10 years, I never mentioned my investments to anyone, including my father. Every success remained private because I wanted my achievements to belong entirely to me. The following morning, after washing my face in a public restroom and buying a simple breakfast with the emergency cash I kept hidden in my backpack, I made one phone call. Within 30 minutes, a black luxury sedan stopped beside the sidewalk. The driver greeted me warmly and handed me a leather folder containing keys, legal documents, and a handwritten note from my late mother's attorney. My mother had known my father better than anyone. Years before her passing, she had quietly transferred part of her personal fortune into a trust that would only become mine once I proved I could stand completely on my own without depending on anyone. As the car climbed into the hills overlooking the city, my heart pounded harder with every passing minute. Massive iron gates slowly opened, revealing a breathtaking estate surrounded by ancient oak trees, sparkling fountains, and gardens stretching farther than I could see. The Mediterranean-style mansion stood proudly against the morning sky, overlooking the ocean as sunlight reflected from enormous glass windows. It wasn't just another expensive house. It was valued at nearly $30 million and legally belonged to me. I stood frozen in the driveway, not because of the money, because my mother had believed in me long before I believed in myself. Inside the mansion, I found another letter waiting on the grand piano. Her words felt like a warm embrace reaching across time. She wrote that real wealth isn't measured by bank accounts, but by compassion, humility, and the courage to remain kind even after being hurt. She hoped I would never use success to make others feel small the way my father often had. Those words changed everything. Instead of throwing extravagant parties or seeking revenge, I turned the estate into something meaningful. One wing became a scholarship foundation for students who had lost parents. Another became temporary housing for families escaping domestic violence. Local entrepreneurs received free office space to launch businesses they otherwise couldn't afford. Every room that once represented luxury slowly transformed into a place filled with opportunity and hope. News spread faster than I expected. Newspapers celebrated the mysterious young philanthropist changing lives across the city. Television stations requested interviews. Community leaders praised the foundation's impact. My name became associated not with inherited wealth, but with generosity. Eventually, the stories reached my father. One afternoon, months later, he quietly arrived at the front gate. Gone was the proud businessman who believed money solved everything. He looked older, smaller, and strangely exhausted, standing before the son he had thrown away. He finally saw what my mother had always seen, a person whose greatest strength wasn't ambition, but compassion. He didn't need to apologize with perfect words. The tears in his eyes spoke louder than anything else. For the first time in my life, I understood that forgiveness doesn't erase pain. It simply refuses to let pain control the future. I invited him inside, not because he deserved another chance, but because carrying hatred would only keep my own heart imprisoned. Years later, thousands of families would pass through those gates searching for hope and leave believing in tomorrow again. Every scholarship awarded, every child protected, and every dream rebuilt became proof that the greatest inheritance my mother ever left me wasn't a mansion worth $1 million. It was the courage to choose kindness when bitterness would have been easier. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Leave a heartfelt comment below. And subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing you stories that inspire hope and remind us that love is always stronger than hate. Special request before you leave. Comment with the words, "Kindness always wins if you believe." Forgiveness is one of the greatest forms of strength. As I stood on the mansion's balcony watching another sunrise paint the sky with gold, I realized my father hadn't thrown me out with nothing after all. He had unknowingly pushed me toward the life I was always meant to live. The house behind me was beautiful, but it wasn't my greatest treasure. The greatest treasure was discovering that no amount of rejection can stop a person who chooses hope over revenge, compassion over pride, and love over bitterness. Sometimes losing everything is simply life's way of leading us to the place where we finally discover who we were meant to become.